everyone, and thank you for joining us for the fourth day of the state funeral for the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. As you know, we will have the presentation or the ceremony for the lay-in state for late Sir Rabbie. As you know, in lay-in state, we will have the cabinet members pay their last respects to the great man, and of course, this will invoke a lot of memories from each of them. This being that most of them that had the good fortune of being a part of his political journey and, of course, his life in general. As you know, the program is going for 5 days, and the first 3 days have gone already, starting from the 13th to the 14th of April in East New Britain, when the casket was taken back home for the last time, so that his family, his community could pay their last respects as well. The program from the 13th saw the casket leave the Charter Lounge here in Port Moresby all the way to Tokwa in Kokpo, East New Britain. This was received well with a welcoming committee led by Governor by the Governor of East New Britain, Michael Marum, who received the funeral party along with other diplomatic corps and families as well. It was a sad day, having the community show in numbers, and the convoy from Tokwa Airport all the way to Vunapope was quite massive. So yes, it was an emotional time as well. On the 14th, we had the funeral program held at the Ralawana United Church. We'll have a few of those clips shown later on during the program, if time allows, of course. So as we wait for the casket to arrive, at the Parliament House for the lay-in state program to proceed in the Grand Hall, we'll of course have the cabinet members. I'm sure some have already arrived and are awaiting, of course, the Governor General. As you know, last night we had on the 16th of April last night at the Sir John Guy Stadium, we also had the funeral program for the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. It was witnessed by members of Parliament. We had Prime Minister James Marape give his keynote address, of course, and we had Sir Leo Dion and many others that proceeded to give their tributes to the great man, our fourth Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. Turning over to the Parliament House, you can see the I'm pretty sure the Guard of Honor were waiting for the casket to arrive from Erima. Should not be too long away. It is, of course, a sad day, and I'm pretty sure along the roads, as the casket will make its way, people would have been waiting to, pass their greetings and, of course, farewells as the casket of Sir Rabbie Namaliu moves towards the Parliament House. It's a bright and early morning to see the casket, and I'm sure everyone is anxiously awaiting in Parliament House. Of course, we've got Prime Minister showing up already inside with Deputy Prime Minister John Rosso as well. Yes, we've got the East New Britain Governor Michael Marum as well, and ICT Minister Timothy Masiu, and I think that's Karen Goku, of course, and Speaker of Parliament, Job Pomat. These members of Parliament, of course, will pay their last respects to the fourth Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. It is a sad day for the country, the nation, and his family and home province, of course. Everyone has paid tributes. Many along the way have, with their tributes, of course, in tow, have mentioned the humility and selfless act that this wonderful man has committed and given in service to the country. You can see his family sitting there, Rabbie Namaliu Jr. and his uncle Jack Namaliu and family. Yes, that would be the family of late Sir Rabbie. The flag is now at half-mast, awaiting the arrival of Sir Rabbie's casket. Just a little recap. During the house cry last night in the evening, we had the Matupit men's choir perform also. It was a lovely occasion and it really did pull at the heartstrings of all the family and diplomatic corps and those that were at during the house cry. You have DPM John Rosso greeting the family of Sir Rabbie. The Royal Police Band is ready as they await the casket to arrive. Governor Alan Bird has now finally entered the Grand Hall with Governor Undialu as well. Over the course of these last few days, many tributes have been delivered and given in honor of Sir Rabbie, and all of course with great emotion and sorrow towards the family and of course East New Britain and the country as a whole as well. The Grand Hall is slowly filling as we await more members of Parliament and, of course, diplomatic corps as well. The family of Sir Rabbie awaits as well and are seated waiting. We have the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, Joey Zadrozny, come in with the Australian High Commissioner, John Philp, greeting Prime Minister James Marape and Deputy Prime Minister John Rosso. Just a recap for those of you who would have been able to view the live streaming of the House Cry last night. We had the opening performance by the George Brown and Matupit Men's Choir before the opening prayer by Reverend Jack Moha. In his sermon, of course, he shared from the book of Philippines, more or less describing how Sir Rabbie is a man of humility and of selfless act, of course. He was a great man, respected by many. The speeches and tributes that were proceeded last night came from Sir Leo Dion, from Frank Kramer, Sir Frank Kramer, and of course Ilageno, and Arthur Somare, who recounted of his political journey with late Sir Rabbie, and how he had done and given so many sacrifices to his country and people. We will have the casket come in momentarily, so please stay tuned, and we will continue with day 4 of the state funeral for Sir late Rabbie Namaliu. I think I can hear the sirens coming in, which should indicate the arrival of the casket momentarily. And there you have it, the motorcade bringing in the casket of Papua New Guinea's 4th Prime Minister, Sir Rabbie Namaliu. We have the official guards in tow with the pallbearers, ready to bring out the casket of Sir Rabbie. The march begins, bringing the casket of Sir Rabbie towards the Parliament House to enter the Grand Hall, where his body will lay in state, followed by tributes and last respects paid by cabinet members.
Sorry, no, not the presidential. Yes, waiting for the official announcement so that we can start talking about it.
So if you were to have Officials coming through with Vard's party for animals coming in. I heard you put them
Exactly.
here as well.
That's kind of the issue. Where he puts 100 people without the official group to sign the contract and all that stuff. Cards.
As is tradition, the casket of Sir Rabbie Namaliu is adorned with the national flag and, of course, wreaths. The slow and steady walk to the entrance of the Parliament House continues as the funeral party, the members of the family, await in the grand hall with the members of Parliament. Now we have the pallbearers assemble themselves, ready to carry the casket. It has been quite the journey from the 13th and 14th of April when the casket was taken to his home province, and now here in Port Moresby, the body of late Sir Rabbie Namaliu will be laid to rest at Independence Hill. Now the pallbearers are ready to take the casket into the grand hall.
Good! General salute! Present! Oops! Good! Hooray! Oops! Good! Hooray! Oops!
Now the march begins as the bagpipes summon the slow and steady walk of the casket into the grand hall. And now the casket will enter the grand hall, where members of parliament and the family of late Sir Rabbie await his casket to be laid down for the ceremony for the laying state to commence momentarily. The casket is led in by the Speaker of Parliament, Job Pomat, and the clerk, and the clerk of Parliament. Pardon me. As the casket is brought in, the country remembers the memory and legacy of the Papua New Guinea's fourth Prime Minister. The pallbearers are now leaving the Grand Hall, and I believe the official laying state program will now commence. The program has started with a word of prayer. the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Justin Kichenko, saying a few words.
Ministers of State, governors, members of Parliament, the immediate family of the late Rabbie Namaliu, diplomatic corps, exhibition, friends and family, good morning to you all here in the great hall of the National Parliament. We now have the late Rabbie Namaliu lying in the state out of respect for him, for his service to the people of Papua New Guinea, and especially his electorate of Kokopo in East Britain. With great pleasure now that I invite our Prime Minister, Honourable James Marape, to come up today.
We will now have the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, James Marape, come in to pay his respects, his final respects, to the fourth Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, Sir Rabbie Namaliu. And that was the final respect shared by Prime Minister James Marape. He was also there on the 13th of April to give his condolences and tributes in East New Britain during the house cry. We now have Speaker of Parliament Job Pommer to say a few words in tribute and last respects. Pommer is greeting the Namaliu family after paying his last respects. We now have the Deputy Prime Minister John Rosso paying his last respects. The Deputy Prime Minister also was in East New Britain during Sir Rabbie's final visit to his home province, where he paid many tributes to the great man and in respect and honor to the family as well. During the funeral service at Valuana United Church, Deputy Prime Minister John Rosso thanked the people of East New Britain for the life and journey of a great man. We have MP Karen Gakua paying his last respects. The laying state formalities are following on with MP Chris Haiveta paying his last respects. The Governor for Gulf Province. We have the Governor for East New Britain, Michael Maron, paying his respects. He led the welcome party for the funeral party coming to East New Britain on the 13th of April. That is Eraman Tobining. And now the Governor for Eastern Highlands. And we have Central Governor Rufina Peter paying her last respects. Now, Sir Anopala, member for Rigo, paying his last respects with his We have now Sir Pokatemu paying his last respects. The member for Abawe showing evident emotion and memory of the life and legacy of Sir Rabbie. This is quite the emotional time. As you can see, these cabinet members showing their last respects, invoking a lot of memories from each of them of their journey and their time spent with the fourth Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, Sir Rabbie. Governor Alan Bird paying his last respects. In silent tribute. Member for Samarimura, E.C. Henry Leonard paying his respects. Member Joe Sungi, member for Luku. And that was Rainbow Paita paying his last respects, and following that is Sir Don Polye paying his last respects. We have the Governor for West New Britain, Sir Sindran Motoville, paying his last respects. He was also at the House Cry ceremony last night, paying tribute to Sir Rabbie. And now John Copa paying his last respects. Member for Moresby East. We have Timothy Mathieu giving his last respects. And now have Lawyer Boy Samuel paying his last respects. We have the Minister for Fisheries and Marine Resources, Jolta Wong, saying a silent farewell to the late Sir Rabbie. We have Peter Samalili Jr. paying his last respects.
I now call personal friends of the family
I believe that was
to come forward and show their last
the end of the Parliament members paying their last respects, and now the family and close friends of Sir Rabbie will pay their respects as well. Now we have Douglas Tumirius paying his last respects, and this will be followed by Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy, Joe Zadrozny. Chargé d'Affaires Joseph Drosny paying his last respects on behalf of the United States Embassy and government to late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. We now have the High Commissioner John Philp paying his last respects on behalf of the Australian Embassy and government. That is Sir Arnold Ahmed. We're paying their respects to Sir Rabbie.
I now call the immediate family.
Minister for Foreign Affairs and member for Moresby South Justice Cheko now calls on the immediate family to come and pay their last respects.
We have here in the National Parliament shown by all our leaders and close friends.
First up is Rabbie Namaliu Jr. Brother Jack Namaliu spoke at the funeral service in East Newington at the Rowan United Church. As the paying of last respects continue, we will shortly give you as the laying state ceremony continues with the paying of last respects to Sir Rabbie Namaliu. We will take you to last night's funeral, a recount of the tribute from Ilageno.
And let me first of all acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, James Marape of Papua New Guinea. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the Governor of the Honorable Governor for NCD, and of course the Master of Ceremonies, Honorable Kachenko, and distinguished members of the National Executive Council, and honorable members of House of Parliament, and the Knights of the Realms, and honorable High Commissioners or Ambassadors of foreign countries here tonight. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu's family. I think Junior, Isaac, Joy, and other members of the family, and also the Sir Rabbie Namaliu's the great tribe, Kokopo, and New Britain. Also acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Governor of East New Britain, and also the Honorable Governor for West New Britain. I come here, stand before the distinguished people tonight as a friend. I want to speak about my time associated with late Sir Rabbie Namaliu in my capacity as a police officer and Commissioner of Police. And I've experienced significant, important improvement in the national policing to ensure law and order was upheld and maintained throughout the country during the leadership of Sir Rabbie Namaliu as the Prime Minister of the country. Sir Rabbie Namaliu was elected the Prime Minister of the country, I believe, in 1988 to 1992, if my memory serves me correct, but I can be corrected. This is a period when the country was experiencing the troubled Bougainville crisis, among other challenges of lawlessness in other parts of the country. I was a Deputy Commissioner of Police, and unfortunately, the police force was bombarded with all sorts of problems, let alone the unnecessary political interference at that time as Deputy Commissioner of Police. Commissioner of Police Paul Toyen at that time was under enormous political pressure dictating him on details of day-to-day operations of police on Bougainville especially, since the Defense Force was on the call out in aid to the civil power. In this case was the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary in accordance with the Section 2.4 of the Constitution of this country. I was one of the two Deputy Commissioners of Police, and the Commissioner of Police was, of course, late Paul Toyen. Unfortunately, the top team of three were bombarded and confronted with all sorts of serious interferences. I vividly recall that this was about the peak of the troublesome period in the history of Bougainville crisis. From my perspective as a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Sir Rabbie Namaliu inherited the police force, which had been very heavily influenced by bad politics in the recent past. In April and May of 1990, Commissioner of Police late Paul TVWAN and the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary experienced the darkest moment in memory. That's when the attempts were made to seat Sir Rabbie and to remove him as Prime Minister of the country. I was Deputy Commissioner at that time. The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary leadership was deeply divided over the action taken by the late Paul TVWAN Commissioner of Police at that time. Subsequently, I was recalled from recreation leave to be appointed Acting Commissioner of Police to command the police force aftermath of the unsuccessful attempt to remove Sir Rabbie Namaliu from office as Prime Minister. And eventually, I was appointed as Commissioner of Police on or about the 11th of May 1990. From the infrastructural development were achieved in the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary in order to improve police operations and, more importantly, improve living conditions of police families. Among the most notable highlights of Sir Rabbie's invaluable contributions in the area of improving policing in the country, I personally shared an experience related to infrastructure in order to improve working conditions of police personnel and welfare of families as morale boost.
And that was Ilageno. Now we have the casket ready to leave the Grand Hall after the paying of final respects from family, friends, and diplomatic corps and the cabinet ministers, of course. The casket is now departing the Grand Hall to make its way to the Eremo Funeral Home. Today, the 17th of April, marks the final time that the body of Sir late Rabbie Namaliu will be at the Parliament House Grand Hall. Still in the Grand Hall, we have the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, James Marape, and his deputy, along with other diplomatic corps and cabinet members, as the casket is taken out to be transported back to the Arima Funeral Home. It has been quite the journey, starting from the 13th, the first day of the state funeral program, now to the fourth day, where the lay-in-state ceremony has now concluded, with members of Parliament, diplomatic corps, family and friends departing the Grand Hall at the Parliament House. As per the program, the funeral for late Sir Rabbie Namaliu will be held at the APEC House tomorrow, the 18th of April, where a PNG Defence Force ceremonial guard will be performed. This is the final farewell of late Sir Rabbie Namaliu from the Parliament House to the Arima Funeral Home. The casket is now in the funeral home hearse that will take Sir Rabbie's casket back to the funeral home. An update for tomorrow's program, the final day of the state funeral for Sir Rabbie Namaliu. We will have the funeral held at the APEC House, followed by the burial at Independence Hill. The doors are closed now and the casket is now ready to be taken back to the funeral home.
Guard! General salute! Present! Up!
A final general salute, and the hearse now departs the Parliament House.
Guard! Hooray! Up! Guard! Hooray! Up! Guard! 2 ranks only! Close! Hooray! March! Guard! At the sword tray! Whoa! Out!
The casket of late Sir Rabbie Namaliu is now leaving the Parliament House for the last time, with his funeral processions for the last day to commence and conclude tomorrow on the 18th of April. His family, immediate families, led by his son Rabbie Namaliu Jr. and family, leaving the Parliament House now. And this brings us to the conclusion, the end of the Lane State ceremony program on the 4th day of the state funeral for late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. And that concludes the 4th day of the state funeral of Sir Rabbie Namaliu. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for your company. We will leave you with tributes from the house cry last night, on the 17th of April by Powers Pakop, the governor of NCD. Thank you for your company.
Wanamarumna. Good night, lo yumi olgeda. Honorable members of parliament, ministers of state, members of the diplomatic corps, CEOs and secretaries of various departments and agencies of state, family of the late fourth Prime Minister, Sir Rabbie Namaliu, all the relatives from Ralwana, East New Britain, from the wider East New Britain community, especially from the Kokopo electorate or district, Governor of our province of East New Britain, Honorable Michael Marum, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Prime Minister and myself as Governor of our capital city, being the co-host of this national outcry, I want to welcome each and every one of you to this very significant event to pay homage and respect to our fourth Prime Minister, who sadly passed away on the 31st of March of this year. So many words and tributes have been made about our fourth Prime Minister, and over the course of next to the lying of the body in state and also the state funeral, serve all the tributes. He served to the highest level of the executive government as our fourth Prime Minister. But I believe in his life, in the way that he served our people and our nation, even if he did not become the Prime Minister, he deserved the tribute, commendation, and the respect that we are giving him now. And I would be repeating most of what has been said and what is going to be said from here on. Many will come after me and much closer to him at a personal and professional level, shared moments with him. I did not share professional or political moments with him because by the time I came into Parliament, he had exceeded in 2007. So I would not be an authority or speak on that level or in that respect. But being a member of Parliament for last 15 years, walking in and trying to live up to their shoes, those who were ahead of us or set the benchmark, I would say without doubt that Sir Rabbie is a leader who set the benchmark and deserves all the respect that we accord to him. Reverend has talked about his humility. But I would also like to add on to that these are time when he served as Prime Minister, as Minister, and in different capacity in his adult life. He was one of great service, unconditional service to our people and our country, to the people of Kokopo, East New Britain, but equally to our nation, and our people. And he was also a man of honesty. He tried to save our country in the highest office as Prime Minister. So honest as possible to run a decent government, to deliver the outcomes that our people deserve. It was not a good time at that time when he attained office in 1988. That was on the eve or same time we had the Bougainville crisis. Economy on a nosedive as a result. We had to manage Bougainville, the loss of revenue from Bougainville. But Sir Rabbie kept the government and the country together in the tough times. He was not prepared. Nobody was ready for that time. And he did his best to try to get our country to address that major crisis in our country's history. And I can say, being somebody on the outside at the time, that Sir Rabbie did his absolute best, tried to deal with and solve that crisis at the time. So much so that the priority was about the country, managing the country, not managing politics, keeping the country afloat. And he paid a high price for that too. After the election in 1992, he lost government. Because for him, he put the country first. He put the people first. He didn't think about his own survival and the future of Pangu Party. This is a lesson I want us to remember. And Sir Rabbie is a leader that always think about Papua New Guinea. And as we all know, and has been mentioned quite frequently now since his said passing on the 31st, he was one of the famous Gang of Four. Sir Mekere, Sir Tony Siaguru, Sir Rabbie himself, and that gang is only survived by Charles Lapani. Formative years of our country, these were the 4 civil servants came out of our university who had passion and vision and commitment to our country to save the government, to transit us from colonial rule to independence. Nobody had any idea about independence, how the government will shape, how it will look, what are the policy framework, how are we going to look after our own country. All ministers or member of parliament will come in here. Who knows how to run country to you? Nobody got trained or had experience or had been a minister before, run a department before. And I want to mention this again because it's very important for us to acknowledge that these 4 people, they set the pace and had a big impact on our country, steering it to post-colonial rule, supporting the political leaders at the time, late Grand Chief. Hemno Savatuya, Grand Chief. It's this 4 gang of 4 that helped him to lay the foundation for our country to come to where it is today. And that's why I'm saying, and I want to emphasize that without reservation or hesitation, You must give him respect, long. Sir Rabbie. His life was a life of service. Unconditional service and love for our country, our people. And he took that to the political arena and his time in politics. Ultimately to the highest level as Prime Minister, our fourth Prime Minister. Today I join everyone in passing the highest level of respect and condolence to the family of beginning the Bubu Yuplai staff, or the wider family Blue Yumilo, Raluanana, Kokopona, Okadablo Eastern Britain, all his friends, closest friends, some of you are here. I join everyone on behalf of our city to give the highest and deepest respect to late Sir Rabbie, our fourth Prime Minister. His life has been a life of service. And I want to say too that he used his life absolutely to the best that he can, purposefully, meaningfully, well beyond politics too. He never forget or forsaken Papua New Guinea. In so many ways, after he left politics in 2007, continued to serve our country. This is his legacy. And it's also a lesson for all of us. Me by talk here, me by talk politics here. All our colleagues in Parliament now, you may come here along, pay respect here. You may pay respect, like you may come talk, but you may by talk, you must go on behind him too. And get the government to follow these type of values that are important, that are really laid the foundation for our country. You mean behind him here, country by pull down. Now you must serve him country behind him, best interest, highest good country, you mean or not? Sir Rabbie gave his love for this country. All people belonging to Ralwana, all no look him. When him benefit belong, Sir Rabbie. Him ka trabla also. Him ka trabla business so. He go Ralwana mino look him. But he gave his life for this country because he knows this country has got a great future. And so me emphasize him this love because me worry lo country below you. And so I'm using this platform now to remind all of us, people like Sir Rabbie, they put their life and set the foundation for this country, and you mean you can risk him by saving to low standard or substandard or no standard or. If Sir Rabbie online only working on him, you mean not got Papua New Guinea. And people reminded me like Lusim Lo Yumi. Let's honor the men in this house cry, but let's remember the lesson. We are challenged now in his passing. Let's make sure to do that. Hard work long what they have laid is not in vain. That we will remember and maintain their legacy. The foundation that said, Yumi Karimigona, leave him as a country below Yumi with so much potential. Me by talk go by me go politic na. Me by Bellat too, yeah. So me by Lucimos. Thank you long, Sir Rabbie, lo life below you. Thank you lo family below Yumi, Ralwana, lo Kokopo, lo Eastern Britain, lo you play give him Sir Rabbie long. Save him, not just Kokopo, not just Eastern Britain, but Papua New Guinea. You me algada mas proud longen. Me proud longen. Me salute him. Me to thank you lo you magada.
We acknowledge presence of our Honorable Prime Minister Honorable James Marape, and the host governor, Honorable Powers Pakop, and also the governor where our late Sir Rabbie, the fourth Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, come from. I acknowledge Governor Michael Maru and all our other ministers and my colleague governors and members of parliament, and also the members of diplomatic corps and senior public servants, and all the loved ones of Sir Rabbie and relatives of Sir Rabbie. Let me acknowledge all of you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to recognize distinguished service by our former Prime Minister, fourth Prime Minister. As all our leaders have already contributed their honor and respect to Sir Rabbie, there is no doubt he's one of the great leaders. I don't want to narrow him down. The leader belongs to New Guinea Islands region, but a leader who belongs to the entire Papua New Guinea. And he always had country at his heart. And it's a very rare quality that, immediately after when he lost that election in 2007, he decided to engage or do his private life. And of course, he was one of the most sought personality for all those big corporate firms and companies as one of their senior board of directors and chairmen. And I had a privilege to communicate with him in many instances while I had an opportunity being a Minister for State Enterprises. So just because Junior was working with me, so we had some opportunities to discuss with him. He's such a simple personality, in spite of me being a very junior or young leaders. He always tried to motivate and talk about reforms, talk about how he can, help our businesses and utilities. Of course, he is more attached to, how we can improve businesses and, bring some much-needed reforms to our SOEs, state-owned enterprises. Our people have attitude issue, because we as government, we cannot do everything 100%. And he believed very strongly in public-private partnership and having the partnership with reputable, private investors, whereby we can achieve the same results as BSP have achieved and many other government companies have achieved before. Unfortunately, we couldn't, push through all those reforms, but thankfully, we had a great opportunity. He is such a simple person. He said, just quickly, plant me in Independence Hill, just go ahead with all your work. And I remember the great leader in Singapore, he didn't even want a public holiday for when that late Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, he just asked everybody to go to work and whoever, can take 1 hour break and come and see him and all. It's a very rare quality of, Papua New Guinean leader. When he lost in 2007, he just decided to engage only in private life. And he didn't bother to come inside politics again, but he still has been a guidance and moral support for many young leaders. So we highly, highly regard him. In fact, Prime Minister wanted him to be the chairman for KCH. Unfortunately, the law didn't allow because of the age. There was an age. In fact, we amended the act just to include him because at the time KCH Act was saying the maximum is 72 years old only. So we, in fact, amended the act to increase that age to be 75 so that people like Sir Rabbie, because one thing we lack in Papua New Guinea means politics means it's dirty, or politicians means, all sorts of bad names they give. But he is one of the exemplary example that you can be a politician and you can be a distinguished character. Because politics is not dirty. Politics is as sacred as you following your religion, because the quality of food we eat, the quality of air we inhale, the quality of water we drink, it's all decided by politics. So then why it has to be dirty? So Sir Rabbie greatly motivate young leaders, to involve to understand what is politics and involve or take a leadership role. So East New Britain, New Britain region is greatly blessed to have one such leader, to give his entire life. I was just hearing from Governor Pakop, it's, more than almost like 25 years. Being a member of parliament is not an easy thing, and it's also not easy thing for him to put country first, risking his own government and losing a government, so it is not easy. So in fact, it is with a very heavy heart that we mourn the passing of one of our distinguished sons, the late Sir Rabbie, and I, on behalf of my family and also all my people of West New Britain and our New Britain people, that we offer our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of our late Sir Rabbie. He is actually one of our early trailblazers who actually dedicated his life towards ensuring that our young nation would achieve its full potential. His unrelenting service to our country, spanning decades, culminated in him becoming the Prime Minister of our great nation. He was not just a leader, not only walked amongst our people, but was also a champion and advocate for their aspirations and development. As a trailblazer, Sir Rabbie inspired those he worked with to dream big and also work hard to achieve those dreams. Because we all aspire to have a similar career like Sir Rabbie. Even after politics, we want to be a most sought-out person of integrity, so the businesses can also engage us or recognize us. So once again, on our people of West New Britain, I want to acknowledge the immense contributions of Sir Rabbie towards the empowerment of our people. In particular, I'm reminded of his support towards the establishment of the Coconut Genetics Center and the importance he placed on the development of our agriculture sector. Sir Rabbie's wisdom, leadership, and unwavering commitment to Papua New Guinea will be very much missed. His absence leaves an indelible void that cannot be filled, and his legacy will forever be remembered and celebrated. We offer our heartfelt condolences to the late Sir Rabbie's family, friends, colleagues, and the people of Papua New Guinea as a whole during this difficult time. We stand together with you in this time of grief. May the soul of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu rest in eternal peace. And on behalf of our people of West New Britain, we commit 50,000 kina if the family ever decide to build some kind of memorial for Sir Rabbie in East New Britain. Thank you and God bless all. Thank you.
Acknowledge each and every one of you for being here tonight in our national house cry. To the family, the children, the siblings, the relatives from both the father side and mother side of the late leader, the entire people of East New Britain, Governor Marum, the people of Kokopo, the Honorable Member Ereman Tabani Jr. and your people, and the greater friends and family and relatives of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. I join many of my colleagues who are here this evening to acknowledge his leadership. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for standing up tonight, and those who are tuning in via the uplinks that is going on in this national house cry. I just want to place on record our appreciation for your tuning in and your presence tonight to an important moment in our nation's history, where we reflect on the passing of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. To the family, you can take comfort seeing the attendance tonight by many of my colleagues in Parliament, ministers of state, governors of provinces, led by the host governor, the Honorable Paul Sparkop, of this wonderful nation's capital, and many other members who are here. I note also the High Commissioner, Australian High Commissioner, His Excellency John Phillips, here tonight. This is a testament to the leader he was to our country. And I will not say much tonight. We will be in the house cry tonight tomorrow we have programs to attend to, and until we say farewell to him proper in the funeral service that is upcoming. But for this evening, let me pay my respect to him on behalf, firstly, on behalf of our country, secondly, on behalf of the greater Pangu Party family and network right throughout our country. Sir Rabbie was a man of high virtue, a noble character and high standing amongst us. He was a man, a father, a leader of the highest standard through to his calling as a public servant of our country. And should I add on, he was amongst the authentic Melanesian leaders of our country who paved the way for laying the fundamental building blocks to the democracy and the sovereignty we enjoy today. His life points to all of us, and especially the youth amongst us, more so the youth of the male gender. The boys, the men amongst us tonight, as we reflect on his life, and tomorrow onwards as we continue to reflect on the life of this man, should note one or two important lessons. He was only in his 20s when he started to contribute to the life of this country. He never saw youth as an obstacle to contribute to this country. He was only in his 20s, he rose up. Being an excellent student, he was also an excellent public servant right from the start. He chose a life of public service, and later in his 30s, he was ventured into politics and remained so until he gracefully exited public service in 2007. What a reflection Papua New Guineans today can reflect on. Age is no barrier. Each and every one of us must contribute to our country wherever God has placed us. In the public service, in the sporting fields, or in the private sector, or in the rural communities. Whether you're still in your 20s or in your 30s, you, especially those of us who are boys, those of us who are men, we have the key to ensure that our country is safe and is growing to be what it should be or must be. The generations that laid the cornerstone of our nation are slowly passing on, in case we have not realized this. Little did I know when I came into office in 2019 that I would preside over the passing of 3 former prime ministers of our country. I had only 7 before me. I supervised of the passing of 3. There were equally 3 great men. 2 of them were in the Gang of 4 who assisted the great-grand chief of our country in putting the steps that was necessary to step on for our nation to become a sovereign nation in September 16, 1975. The 3 that are passed on represents the generation of Papua New Guinea, both our fathers and mothers who are moving on and rested from the weary life they lived as they contributed to our country. The call is on each and every one of us. As we reflect in the passing of a great man, may we too find and look within us and not waste these sort of moments, but find within us where we all can contribute to the cause of bettering and doing better for our country as our country moves on into the future. The further we move on into the future, the distant the memories of 1975 and the struggle towards independence in the 70s would be. But this sort of moment make us to remember in case we forget. We uphold the solemn words of lest we forget what happened in the past. They forever will remind us of our past. They were men of highest virtues, and should I say, women also who lived in and around those times, of higher standing and virtue, who contributed immensely to what our country is today. And as we sit in solemn remembrance of such a leader who had passed, and on this occasion, in the passing of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu, may we all come and bond together as one people, one nation, belonging to one nation, one country, and recommit ourselves to the cause of individually and collectively contributing to what PNG must be as we move on into the future. To the family, let me say thank you very much. To the greater tribe, I was with you 2 nights ago in the house cry in the village. And I want to place on record my appreciation to the families of the late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. You heed to his wish. But even if he had not wished so, it would be fitting for the man he was, against a backdrop of the Matugan movements in the 1970s, against a backdrop of successionist movements in other parts of our country, against a backdrop regionalist or belonging to ethnic group. He saw the need. I know you conceived him in the islands of East New Britain, and he is truly your very own. But the fact that he is buried here doesn't demean the fact that he is truly one of your own kind. Rather, when he is buried here, the link between Waigani and his homeland is forever established. That will be the forever belly code linked to the great East New Britain people, the great Tolai people, that your premier son, your #1 son, buried on the independent hill, gives forever affinity to the greater cause of Papua New Guinea, one people, one nation, one country. I want to say thank you very much on behalf of the greater country and on behalf of Pangu Party. Thank you for allowing his body to be buried here. We will reciprocate by ensuring that a monument befitting of the man he is planted in his beloved Kokopo. We will also ensure, as I commit in the house cry, that at the primary school in his village, Pangu Party will take lead in establishing a library, a modern library that has his history, the history of Pangu Party, that intertwines with the history of this country. We will ensure that his story is not lost into the dust, but is secured for this generation and the generation that comes after to learn of and good as a country. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. I want to say thank you to all the leaders. I really appreciate you all for coming by. You're all busy men, but paying respect to someone who paved the way for us to be here is important. And we are part of an occasion that will go down in our nation's history, where the 4th Prime Minister of our country was given due respect. To the family who are here and who've come from East New Britain, you're amongst families and friends. We note his contribution, and tomorrow we will continue to give him respect when this funeral service is conducted and when Parliament receives his body. Our national flag will be flown at half-mast to give respect to the man he was. And as we lay his body down, all that is befitting of this great man will be rendered in honor of his service to our country. May God bless late Sir Rabbie Namaliu. May God continue to bless his family, his tribe, his Kokopo, his East New Britain, and his Papua New Guinea. God bless each and every one of you.